I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, February 5th, 2018 to order. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Charlie, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charlie. Second item on our agenda this evening is a public hearing to obtain comment on request for the extension of sidewalks on the following roads: Long Hill Road between Long Hill Park and Route 1, Little Meadow Road, Stepstone Hill Road, Route 1 in the area of Sunrise Association neighborhood. We actually received two separate petitions for that, and then the last is Water Street. So this is an opportunity for you to express your opinion, make your case one way or the other regarding these particular requests. There's a lot of folks here this evening, so I'd like to keep it to 3 minutes per individual. And if at some point it becomes apparent that there's not much more to say, maybe some of your neighbors would appreciate not going over the same ground. However, I do understand the importance of folks to get their opinions, have their opinions heard, so we will entertain anyone who wants to speak in the public hearing. The protocol is pretty traditional. We'll call you up, sit up at the table here with the microphone so you can be recorded for all of your neighbors and friends in the community to see on GCTV. But please state your name and your address for the record prior to starting with your comments. With that, who'd like to go first?
Point of information first.
Certainly.
Is Long Hill Park Bishop Field?
No, Long Hill Farm Park, which is up at the corner of
Hubbard?
No, it's past Hubbard. It's up Flat Meadow Road. It's where the playing fields are on the left-hand side as you're coming up.
Yeah.
A landmark. We'll leave that alone. Come on up, please.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Schmid. I live at 140 Wild Rose Avenue in Guilford. And I just as a general support statement, I'm supportive of any bike ped infrastructure improvements the town chooses to go forward with. I would love to see a transportation committee or some type of committee form that looks at it town-wide and hopefully includes, at least looks at including these 4 or 5 petition street requests in that plan. I live on Wild Rose, so I'm going to just speak a few minutes about my support for Water Street. I live about a mile away from the town green. We go almost weekly in the summertime on foot. We usually push a stroller, and I have a 5-year-old. She now walks because she's too big for the stroller. And we come in on Wild Rose, we cut over on Jacobs Lane, and then we head up on Water Street. And that stretch right there where there's that bend where Water Street and Jacobs Lane meet is particularly dangerous just because of the curve, and there's really no sight lines with the cars, and there's really no shoulder. And what we find kind of interesting is we all sort of coexist. Road cyclists, pedestrians, crabbers, people fishing, and it's the cars who are the most frustrated with us. The road cyclists are polite. Everyone's moving together, but it's the cars who are honking and flipping us off, and they're so angry and they're so frustrated. They really, but we're a mile from the green, right? So everyone is kind of using this gorgeous road, and the cars are frustrated. And so I wanted to spend another minute talking about kind of why I think Water Street is probably ripe for a sidewalk extension. I think it has a pretty high car volume, although I'd like that number, if via transportation committee confirmed what that number is. I'm guessing it's a pretty high car volume compared to some of the other roads in Guilford. It's currently a state bike route, so all the road cyclists are heading out that way. The sidewalk actually only extends about a third of the mile away from the green, so it's one of the shortest stretches of sidewalk leading away from the green. There's over 300 residential homes that are about a mile from the green when you look at all the Sam Hill neighborhood, Mulberry Point neighborhood homes. In my opinion, a mile is a reasonable distance to be walking or running. You actually can get to restaurants and you're not sweaty, and you can enjoy the restaurant. You can go shopping, you can walk back. So 2-mile round trip is quite reasonable to do, not in a car. If you connect the west side of town to the town center, then you enable access for the west side of town to bus stops and the train station, which we currently don't have access to, only by car for the commuters, unless you walk or bike. It's not all that safe. And if you connect the town center residents out west, then you're connecting them into the Sam Hill neighborhood, which is gorgeous walking. You have access to all the Westwood trailheads. There's 3 trailheads in the Sam Hill neighborhood, so that's very popular for mountain biking, hiking, and trail running. This is also, when you head west of town on Water Street, this is a very popular running route. A lot of the running groups meet at the town green, and then they do the loop up in the Sam Hill neighborhood and out to Vineyard Point and back. And lastly, it's a popular fishing and crabbing spot, which the people tend a lot of times to do from the roadway. So it's just a very busy area, and it's a beautiful area. And I don't know what the solution is. The town only had petitioning for a sidewalk, so that's why we petitioned for a sidewalk. But if there's other solutions, that would be great too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? You bet.
Hi, my name is Kara Corral, and I live at 162 Mulberry Point Road. And I'm also in petition for the sidewalks. We live about a mile as well to the green, and until my foot injury, I was an avid runner and would always run to the green with 2 children in a double stroller, and a double stroller does not fit well on that road. And it would just be nice to be able to access all that the town has to offer on foot versus always having to load my 3 children into a car and getting to the green and enjoying what the town has to offer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Donald Cottrell, 9 Garrison Drive, off Little Meadow Road. Little joke, as a runner, I don't necessarily mind the cars. It helps me to stay on my game with my lateral movement. Little frog around to the side. Hope that people don't mind using their front yard from time to time. I'm here mostly to talk about the health benefits of walking. I think it's something that's often overlooked. I cheated. I went to the Mayo Clinic and took a couple crib notes down. The leading sentence they had I thought was pretty telling. Physical activity doesn't need to be complicated. Oftentimes, as communities, we have gym memberships. We buy fancy gyms. We don't use them. We want to get the latest, greatest new fad, whether it's a diet or a routine like CrossFit. But it's as simple as putting on some comfortable shoes, putting one foot in front of the other, spending time with your family, meeting your neighbors, getting some fresh air, decompressing. These are things that, at least on Little Meadow, are kind of hard to do. You can do the one foot in front of the other part. It's challenging to do it with your family, and it's challenging to do it in a relaxed state. The Mayo Clinic goes on to explain that specifically, walking can help you maintain a healthy weight. It can help prevent or manage various conditions, including heart disease, of which I am a victim, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes. Strengthens your bones and muscles, improves your mood, and improves your balance and coordination. And I'd like to highlight that if you review this list, which you can do at the Mayo Clinic, all of these things also help you save money. which means our community as a whole will save money. Thanks for your time.
Hello, my name's Gary Bonacore. I live on 3 Stonewall Lane. It's part of the Sunrise Division. And you may have seen me in the morning around 7:30 and walking home around 11:30. I have an orange jacket because I walk to the center of town and back every day. And a lot of that was done because of what I've just heard. After I retired, I was overweight, had high blood pressure, and was told you should do something for exercise. So I started doing that, and it's helped out immensely. I realized that we tried to get this before from Sunrise down to the center and went through the whole trail thing. But I also noticed that there was a big sign that said, "Not a trail, how about a sidewalk?" So when I heard this was a possibility, I really thought I'd get involved and start asking other people if they would favor something like that. So I hope this happens. I know there's a lot of children, too, that could benefit by this, being able to go to the school, walk to the center of town. I don't understand why a hotel that's there wouldn't want their patrons to walk down to the center of our beautiful town and have dinner or go across to the diner. But having to walk on the post road isn't the easiest thing to do, especially when there's a lot of traffic. There is a sort of a lane there for bikers, but if a car is coming and when cars stop, they have to go into that biker lane and run you over to get around. And that's the problem. So I'm hoping that, whether we could come up with something as an alternative to the trail, but can let us walk on that side of the road and not only enjoy our great town, but be able to access a lot of the great stores and restaurants that we have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Doug McGee, 6 Horseshoe Road. I would be an abutter to a proposed sidewalk. And right now, today, under the current regulations of the town, I'd be opposed to it because I would have to shovel that. It's a long stretch in front of my house. I'm a volunteer in the town and out during storms, and also my job requires me to be in when storms are happening. So I would like to see this action tabled until the mobility study happens, where we can consider how to share the burden of sidewalk clearing with the town or some other methods. So other folks in town that would like a sidewalk, and I would love to have a sidewalk, but a burden to myself and neighbors and abutters is quite, large depending on how much frontage you have. So just a consideration for the board. For those, it'd be great to have sidewalks, but it does put burden on some individuals that, may not be able to do it or other reasons. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd be disappointed if you did.
So I'm Sam Garretts, 290 North River Street, and my wife and I have lived here since 2001. A big selling point on buying the house that we have on North River Street is that it came with a sidewalk. And once I realized that the green was about 6/10 of a mile from our house, we were sold. The interesting thing was, though, that after we moved here, we started to realize that Guilford was actually the answer to the question, where does the sidewalk end? Because as you branch out in other directions, you quickly find that you're done. So, North River Street, you can't go much further past where we live, and you're on a very busy and dangerous stretch of road. If you go to the south, you can get all the way to the marina, but east and west are problematic. And what's most interesting to me is that there are these opportunities to finish roads, finish sidewalks, like the Route 1 stretch from State Street to where it then meets Boston Street, or actually Goose Lane. There's gaps in that road, right in front of the Monument Shop, et cetera. That extension to Route 1 was built in 1927. So we've had 90 years to fix that problem, and we haven't. We also, with the exception of Goose Lane, you can't walk under I-95 with any kind of a safe passage. Including, I wanted to ask a question to the audience here. Did anybody walk here tonight? No? If we were at the community center, how many people would have walked? Just a few, but more. So from my house, it's 0.8 of a mile to here. No way I would walk, because it's just too dangerous. And I think these are the kinds of problems that were really clearly articulated in the transportation plan from 2003. So now we're getting a little more recent, but that's still 14 years. And there's some really obvious things that can be done. So I'm not going to speak in detail about any one of these proposals. I would say I'm for all of them, because anything that expands our ability to get from point A to point B without getting behind the wheel of a car, which is unhealthy in terms of you're not walking, but let's also remember we're melting the planet down due to our consumption of fossil fuels. So I think there's a lot of benefits that we should consider here. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Sir?
Hello, my name is Pete Luffler. I live at 562 Long Hill Road, and I've lived there for 40 years. And I just saw in the paper that we're thinking about putting sidewalks up the street. And I was a runner, and my knees are shot now, but I was a runner, and I used to go up and down there, and then I was walking, and now I joined the gym. And I'm not sure if I'm for it or against it, to tell you the truth, but I do know that we're zoned 1 acre, and I've got a 200-foot frontage. And as a cancer survivor, I think it's a bit much to expect us to go out there and shovel it and take care of it if you decide to put it in. And it seems to me that you'd get a bigger bang for your buck if you want to do sidewalks, if you did them in town, where the frontage is. People obviously need sidewalks there and want them. Now you're getting out into the rural areas, and I'm not sure that you get what you're really looking for. At the same time, I know that the street is busy. My wife walks up and down it with the dog. Today she did, and it's busy. And but you have to get off it. I mean, it just seems to me that I don't know. I can't do it. I couldn't do it. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Pete. Please.
My name is Ann Miracle Leet. I live at 63 Crabapple Lane in the Apple Tree neighborhood up behind Bishop's. And a number of our neighbors, I think, I'm representing a lot of people in our neighborhood, particularly those with children. As my friends and I were driving over here tonight, we live less than a mile, far less than a mile from here, and there's absolutely no way we would ever consider walking down Hubbard, you know, and over here. My son attended Adams. He always wanted to walk to and from school, and my choices were either for him to go down Long Hill Road, which has very heavy traffic, people speeding to get to work, to get on the highway, and walk under the highway underpass, and then walk down the post road, or to pass 2 highway on-ramps, 2 highway off-ramps with no sidewalks until you get close to Adams. So in less than a mile, he had no option of going either way. Now I'm irritated because I keep threatening him with having to walk to the high school, and I just can't do it because there are no sidewalks for him to walk on. So I threaten and then drive him. So, but we have a number of kids in our neighborhood, and the ability to walk, we're not that far from downtown, and most of us feel that we can't send our children to walk down because it is too dangerous and people aren't paying attention, drivers aren't paying attention. And as far as getting up to the high school goes, the same thing. If you have any extracurricular activity, there is no late bus like there was when I was in high school. You either wait till 5, 6 o'clock for your parent to come pick you up, or you walk, or you get a ride with someone else. There's just no other option. So, I'm obviously for the sidewalks. I am very sympathetic to the comments that neighbors have made about having to shovel, and definitely there should be some provision made for that. But we definitely need, our neighborhood and the neighborhoods up Long Hill Road need access to downtown and to the high school. And it's to enable kids to walk to Adams versus taking the bus or being driven by their parents would be a huge asset. Thank you.
I'm Peter Hawes. I live at 66 High Street, and pardon this, I'm a better writer than I am a speaker. I'm here to support extending the Water Street sidewalk, but also to kind of fly the flag for better pedestrian access throughout town. Bike too, but that's a story for another day. My wife Meg and I moved downtown about a year ago from Nut Plains Road, where we'd been for about 15 years. And because of the dangerous traffic and road conditions up there, we barely walked anywhere. I took my dog up to the Nut Plains Park and over to the Goss property from time to time. But walking up and down Nut Plains and Goose Lane was something I was very, very rarely willing to do. So we moved in large part because we wanted to take advantage of some of the best things that Guilford had to offer. The green, the shops in town, the beach and the harbor, the train, open space, without having to get into our car every time. And I can tell you, now that we are downtown, we absolutely love it. And for us, it's about exercise and health. Thank you very much for calling our attention to the health benefits. There are also a lot of economic benefits we can go into at another time. But for us, it's about health and exercise more than it is anything. It's about getting fresh air. It's about being out in nature. It's about not using gasoline and polluting the environment every time we want to go somewhere. And as much as anything, it's about how much we feel part of this great community. I mean, there are so many fantastic people here, and we get out and we walk around, whether it's with our dog or just the two of us, we see our friends and neighbors. We meet new people. We have serendipitous conversations in the middle of the road, and we want to do more of that. I use Guilford sidewalks to walk the dog to the green or down to the marina every morning. I've walked to the train station to take the train into New York. Meg and I stroll around town to the degree that we can safely, but we'd like to do a lot more. We'd like to walk to the Land Trust property out at Sam Hill. We'd like to walk down to Chaffinch Island to see friends in Mulberry Point and Sachem's Head. We'd like to walk to patronize Bishop's, the stores in Boston Street and Route 1 and even the Rock Pile. And we'd like to, of course, run into a lot more people and meet people who we don't meet traveling the same old route over and over again. So I've got to say, having lived through, as many of you have, the Shoreline Greenway Trail and Nut Plains Pathway things, I love this town. And I love the rural historic character of this place. I love the country roads, even though I fear I'm taking my life into my hands every time I go out there on foot or on bike. And I completely understand how thoughts of adding a sidewalk to a country road can stir up fears of loss of town character. But I just, when I think of that, I think Guilford was built on walking and other kinds of non-motorized travel. And I think we've kind of forgotten that as we've improved our roads over the years and done very little to make things better for people who want to or who have to get around without a car or truck. So I wonder what really disrupts the character of a historic town like Guilford. Is it adding a sidewalk or a path or a trail to an important arterial or collector road, or is it the road itself, made even better and wider and smoother so it can handle more traffic and move that traffic more expediently and more quickly? So surely there's got to be a way to adopt what we have, to use things like traffic calming and lane narrowing and more sidewalks to make things safer for people who walk without sacrificing any of our community character. I kind of feel that to do so would be a step both toward our past and toward our future, honoring who we've been as a community, but also building a community for the kind of realities of today and tomorrow. And as a taxpayer and property owner here, I kind of worry about Guilford a little bit. You know, as our town plan of conservation and development points out, the world is moving to livable, workable, walkable, bikeable communities, places where there are jobs, nice places to live, a quality school system, good shopping and other amenities close by and accessible without the use of a car for everything. So Guilford has so much of all of that going on, everything maybe but the accessibility part. But as I look east and west of us, I see towns, Madison and Branford, looking into things like transit-oriented development and bike ped committees. And I see towns that are working to make themselves more attractive and livable, both for young families for whom walkability is important and whose presence we need to give us a balanced population and give the town energy, but also for people in my age bracket and above who, many of us, walkability is a necessity. So I'll just finish up by urging our selectmen to take the lead on a townwide plan to improve mobility with an emphasis on better walking and biking and a focus on heavily traveled roads like Water Street, Route 1, Long Hill, and Little Meadow. I know we can do this, and I think if we do it right, we can do it in a way that brings the town together and doesn't divide us. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Valerie Ferrucci. I live on 1595 Little Meadow Road. I'm in support of all the proposed sidewalks. We don't live on a cul-de-sac. We don't live in a low-traffic area. I previously lived in Hamden and used my jogging stroller frequently from my front door. With my second child living in Guilford, I've been unable to safely do so. When I brought up to my 8- and 3-year-olds that there may be sidewalks, and that was the meeting I was going to, I really can't tell you how excited they were. I just sit all them down and say, well, it's not going to happen yet. We'll see. And they were excited to, be able to, we have a gravel driveway. They were excited to be able to ride their bikes, to run to a friend's house that's less than a quarter mile away, to go to walk to Guilford Lakes. They can't do any of that right now. I'd also love to, myself, to run more safely and be more connected to our community. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jocelyn Yu, and I live at 51 Nut Plains Road. And I wasn't planning to speak tonight. I am supportive of all of the sidewalk proposals. And as I'm standing here, I'm just thinking about how, I'm here with my baby, and there would be so many other people in support of this proposal, all of these sidewalk proposals. But the time is hard for young families with bedtime, and sometimes, people are working. So I just had that thought, and I wanted to say it. Thank you.
We'll put that one down for 2 yeses.
Yes.
Anyone else? Come on up.
So hi everyone, my name is Nathan Kane. I live at 59 Davis Drive, which is in the Sunrise neighborhood. And I just wanted to say that there's 3 yeses for the sidewalk, me and my 2 kids, 6 and 8 years old. They're very excited about the possibility of having a way to walk to the green or to their school where they go to Calvin Leet. Just walking the whole way. It's definitely, it's a wonderful thing. And I'm honestly really, really disappointed that, possible funding source for that to happen was taken away. But looking forward, the question is, in their lifetime, as kids, will they be able to walk to the green, or will we have to get in a car and drive that's what I want to know is, is this serious, this effort, or is this just to pacify, people that are disappointed with, that the fact that the SGT money was given back, even though it could have been used for a sidewalk. So, my thought is, I'm hoping by the time, before they graduate and go to college, they'll have a chance to be able to walk to their town green safely. And, and if we have visitors with younger kids, we could all walk together, with a stroller, I'm still very sad and disappointed that the funding source for that is gone. But, I'm hoping that, enough people will say this is really valuable and that we should do this. I'm hoping enough people will rise up and really make their voices heard, because I know every family in Davis Drive that I know of with kids really wanted this. They may not show up as much as that other group, but they really do want this. And, so basically I'll just leave it at that, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Come on up, Brian.
Brian Wiley, 69 Davis. If I could ask a question of the board, and there may not be an easy answer, because there are some objections that I think haven't been mentioned here tonight that have surfaced earlier. And a few objections are, obviously, money is always an issue. Gentleman mentioned snow clearing, which is certainly something to address, because that could be a major burden on many people. And there's been some consternation about changing the character of the town by having more sidewalks, but also more specifically, people have raised the issue of certain stone walls and trees that would have to be maybe removed. Is that more the concern from a character standpoint, or is it just having more sidewalks from a visual standpoint? Does anybody have a feeling on that? Was it that a few, don't know?
I don't think I can represent the
Fine.
community at large on that. I think
It
we've all
depends
seen.
on the location, like
Right.
Nut Plains, that was a large argument against it because of the stone walls and the trees. But you never even got to the planning stage, so.
Okay, so here may or may not be a solution, but maybe a suggestion or a question. That my understanding from the Shoreline Greenway Trail mini discussions was that, and I'd have to talk with Jim Portley, the town engineer, but that something over 6 feet wide becomes a path and is not a sidewalk. Therefore, it was 6 feet the number? So
Anything over 6 feet. I think
6
is
feet, okay, so a
determined.
combination of suggestions or possibilities might be, where possible, make this possible pathway 6.5 feet wide. Because it's clearly true that we need to have some solution for people who would be clearing snow, even though there's a lot less snow falling in the course of a given winter now than there was. Okay, or at least last time we checked. But it's still an issue from a snow clearing standpoint, certainly a political issue before it happens. The other question would be, is it possible to have a sidewalk that's not a uniform width the whole way? In other words, have something that's 6.5 feet long for a while, and then if you come to a stone wall that's been there for 300 years, that's near and dear to some local residents, narrow the sidewalk. These are seemingly feasible solutions, or at least possibilities. And another observation with respect to some of the clearing that might turns out have to be done, or might be called on to be done if we did a sidewalk, is this beautiful town we live in has been here for, in many cases, 375 years. Some people would observe that if some of these roads had been built, when these roads were built, if there were cars then, which there certainly weren't, people might have made an accommodation when they first built the town for walking paths. So with that, I'll just say that there seem to be so many reasons to do this, and each of the reasons not to is probably surmountable. Don't get the cloud of objections. Have many specific, rational, reasonable, important objections. Try addressing them one at a time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Green. I live at 161 Briarwood Drive. It's about a mile from the high school. I'm definitely in favor of the sidewalks. In fact, I believe that we should have a sidewalk in front of, instead of starting the sidewalk at Long Hill Park, I'd like to see it start at Briarwood Drive and New England Road. And it's really not for me. I think it's it was August 2 years ago. I noticed that when they built the new high school, they didn't put a sidewalk in front of the whole high school, which I was shocked. If you look in where they have the new athletic field, there's no sidewalk there. And where they put the new parking lot next to the athletic field, there's no sidewalk on New England Road. So for any student or person walking to the school or just walking there, it's a problem. And so to prove that, I did that one morning in September, 7:15, I walked with my dog there. With all the buses and cars turning in and out, we're expecting kids to walk on that road. And that's not including if it's winter with the snow or when it's rain. So I went to first I was told by the Cliff, who's ever the building person up there, that they said that the sidewalk couldn't be built because it wasn't school property. And then I was told by Jim Portley, it is school property. Then I was told to talk to the building standing committee. Unfortunately, it was in about the October, November time frame, and they were actually closing down. So I did speak, and nothing was done. So the other thing is that I see kids doing athletic running all the time down Long Hill Road, or down New England Road and up Briarwood Drive, which is great. But if you look at that turn where these kids are running, we're very lucky that no one has been hurt. So if sidewalks can be done and also included in from New England Road to the high school, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Renee?
My name is Renee Meskill, and I live at 111 Wild Rose Avenue. And I would welcome a safe route to walk to town, and I fully support extending the sidewalks on Water Street. I actually support all of the projects that are being considered this evening. And I would like to suggest, as some others have, that it doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing proposition. We can certainly increase safety and encourage outdoor activity with a combined solution that includes sidewalks and paths, as well as a dedicated bike lane or pedestrian lanes. For the good of the town, I think that we must be willing to be reasonable and compromise and find different solutions, that it doesn't have to be the same throughout. I think we have an opportunity here in Guilford to help the town to grow and to promote healthy lifestyle opportunities and increase the connectivity of our citizens. And we rely on your good judgment to move our town forward in a responsible and positive manner. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There you go.
I don't have any kids, but when I moved here, I was excited to...
Could you give just your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Leslie Dumpy, and I live at 28 Crabapple Lane. So I don't have any kids, but all of my neighborhood is filled with kids, and I've always had a dog. So I would love to walk to the green with the dog, but I can't. I have neighbors that load up their dogs and take them to the green to then be able to walk them. And I wouldn't ever think of walking down Long Hill to Route 1 to then switch over to River Road to get to the green with my dog, because I would be afraid of being hit by a car. So I just wanted to say, from the pet owners world, but also I live in a neighborhood with so many children, and all of them would love access to the green or high school by using a sidewalk on Long Hill. So from that perspective.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Closed. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us. You can rest assured they will all be taken into consideration as we deliberate on this issue. At this point, it may be no secret to some folks, specifically in this room, that it is our intention, or my intention, with the support of the board members, and I think I have that, to create what we're calling, and don't shoot the messenger on the name, but the Guilford Safe Streets Mobility Task Force, which is designed to develop a plan for addressing the concerns we've had here. It's a pedestrian safety focus, and pedestrian is expanded to include walking, cycling, pushing of strollers, as well as the concerns related to some of the cars. We heard a runner here talking about the cars and the agility. Having run for many years myself, I've made those quick left or right-hand turns as needed when they were coming. So, but there are also concerns about traffic speeds and the ability to calm traffic, to slow it down. So what we're intending to do with this plan, and I already have about a dozen folks who have volunteered, Kim being one of them, to participate on this task force. We are close. Gary, I know you and I had conversations about this as well. We are very close to rolling out the charge of that committee, that task force. The devil's in the details to make sure that we put a charge together that satisfies the concerns, and not only satisfies the concerns of those who are in favor, but those who are opposed. There will be representation from both sides of the issue. Rest assured, we cannot exclude anyone from this process. We intend to hold a series of listening tours or sessions where we talk to folks in more depth than we have the opportunity to do so here. We are looking at a timeline. Right now, it might be a little bit aggressive. That timeline is to deliver a set of recommendations to the Board of Selectmen by the fall. In concert with that effort, it is my intention, with the support of the board members and also some of my former colleagues on the Board of Finance, to allocate funds for this study and for the potential some demonstration projects, or what some people are referring to as the easy wins or no-brainers, if consensus is reached early in the process about where it makes the most sense to do so. We will also be dusting off the 2002 or 2003 transportation plan because, as someone mentioned earlier, it took 90 years. 90 years ago we started something, and I bet there might have been something 90 years ago about a plan to finish that. But there are valid and there are already identified priorities in that 2003 transportation plan, which will be re-looked at, and we'll look for validation if they are still the same or have things change in this community that require us to look at some of the other opportunities. I'm not sure Long Hill to Route 1 was part of that original transportation plan for sidewalks. I will say this, and this is not a knock on the previous administration, but the fact that sidewalks weren't considered on the construction project at the end of Long Hill is somewhat short-sighted. And I'm also responsible. I voted to approve that project years ago. I didn't ask the question. So it's not blame anywhere. It is, I think we need a more comprehensive approach to some of these projects because they're interrelated. So it is my intention, It was my intention to announce the formation of this committee by the end of January. That slipped, sorry about that, but we want to get it right, so you'll be hearing more about that in short order. I also heard some comments about transit-oriented development. For those that are not aware, if you take a look at the Town Center South plan, that is a good representation of transit-oriented development. And there are things already happening down in that area. Unfortunately, the state is, the state of the state is such that there's an imminent threat to reduce rail and bus services in the state, and particularly affecting the Guilford station, taking away some off-peak options. So I would urge those of you who are firmly believers in transit alternatives to reach out to my good friend Sean Scanlon and Ted Kennedy and any other state legislator that you feel appropriate to lobby them to not cut the funding if at all possible. Lastly, there is, in my mind's eye, there is one thing that was touched on briefly here tonight, and that's the rights of property owners. And we still need to respect the rights of property owners in this process. And the points made about the burden placed upon those in front of whose yards or portions of their yard or properties will be impacted by this, we have to consider them as well. And I wish I could tell you I knew what the options were legally related to absolving responsibility for clearing sidewalks during snowstorms, but I don't have that answer. But rest assured, we'll have that over time as we explore the options available to us. So once again, I thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules and lives to come and give us your opinions. And I open it up there if any of my other board members have any comments.
I have one other comment, in addition to what you were just saying, Matt, is the reason that this is difficult to put together is, to Matt's point, it is the devil in the details. Things like even planning and zoning will come into play. A certain part of our zoning code, if you build commercial properties, or especially on Route 1, where they spoke about the sidewalks going up Route 1. Well, that all was initiated because if you build or have additions to property on Route 1, you're required to put in the sidewalk, and that was why it got done in pieces. And that's part of what a plan should include. I got to tell you, the point about the high school, I mean, that's very well taken. The same thing about Long Hill Road. If we build these things into code, if we write a transportation plan or whatever this access plan is going to be called, and we spell it out in the different codes and ordinances, it will be part of the checklist for engineering, for planning and zoning, for inland wetlands, for anything. And it'll be part of everything we do going forward. So,
Agreed.
that's all I want to say.
No? With that, once again, thank you for your input and taking the time to share your thoughts with us. Thank you. Public forum, although I think we just had some public forum, but not officially. Anything public forum for anyone wishing to address any items on the meeting that the regular Board of Selectmen meeting that we're about to conduct. No? Okay. Move on to item 4. Well, we give people an opportunity to clear.
The rest is just Eversource.
Eversource will be after we do our minutes.
But no.
Oh, no, there's a full Board of Selectmen meeting afterwards.
Oh.
If you're so, yeah, if you're so inclined. Yeah.
Next day I'll get it.
Next time.
You're staying?
Just for a little.
Jeremy's watching the kids, you're staying out. This is how you sneak, that's how you get out, right? All right, shall we? 4.1, January 16, 2018, regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion? Second. Comments, questions, changes,
One
deletions?
tiny change in 6.1. That says, Chief Hutchinson said they're looking to replace 4 laptops in each of the vehicles. Probably should say 4 each of the vehicles as opposed to 4 laptops in one vehicle.
That's good. Anything else? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, none. Carries. 4.2, January 17, 2018, special workshop meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Comments, questions, additions, deletions, et cetera? I had none.
No, that's fine.
Good. Tracy, great job. Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A lot of
Yeah, a lot of meetings. By the way, a lot of meetings, and I thank most of you for taking time out from your professional lives to attend to them. January 18th, 2018, special workshop meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions, suggestions, changes? Hearing none, call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals? None. Item 4.4, January 23rd, 2018, special workshop meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, good. Comments, questions, et cetera? Hearing none, call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, wonderful. Thank you. Item 5, presentation regarding Eversource Stepstone Hill Road to Green Hill Road in Madison, substation upgrade project. And Kathy Lazon, who normally would be here, has got her hands full in Madison because I understand it is dark downtown in Madison these days. And they've been without power for a day and a half or something. Not to give you a bad name, because it's probably not it's probably something they're working on very hard, but so Patty,
This is Liz Hale.
and Liz, that's it, I apologize. What we're doing here tonight is Eversource has a major capital investment program to improve communications capabilities between their 2 substations, one in Guilford and Stepstone, and one in Madison on Green Hill. Additionally, they are going to be replacing poles. I guess I understand there are some old wooden poles, but they're going to talk a little bit more about this. And this also was designed to provide the community with some input related to the impacts to the specific property owners. And I know I'm jumping into your presentation here, but all of the affected property owners have been notified a couple of times by Eversource.
Yes.
Is that correct? So, are we in the way of the projector or something?
No, the projector, the password prompt came up. We don't know your password.
Okay. Well, we'll have to get Mike Firehouse. So bear with us for a moment. It's one of those things when you rely on technology.
Okay.
Will you be talking from the podium or back there or from over here?
Whatever you.
Okay, that's something.
So we're probably gonna have to move, I would suspect, right? Is it gonna show behind us?
It'll be behind you, but you have.
It is going to show behind us, so we won't be able to see it unless we really.
Or will we
gymnastics.
silhouette it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think you turned it on earlier.
It's short, don't worry.
Good.
Jonas, is there a code to turn on the projector? Code to turn on the projector? Oh.
There's a password.
Somebody-
Yeah, somebody-
Good answer.
Dude, what do you got? Call one of your kids. They're usually pretty good.
Take Cliff now, and I don't know if you want to do that one.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. That's a good idea. While we're waiting for that to kick off, how about if we move Cliff Gurnham up while we wait, right?
Sounds good.
Somebody want to make a motion to do that?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cliff, He's already on. He's on.
Thanks for moving me up. I always appreciate that.
You got it. Well, you can thank Pam.
Love technology.
When it works.
That's right.
When it works. All right, 6.1, this is discuss and take possible action on the request for a change order for the Melissa Jones roofing project. Cliff, you want to just let us, tell us what this is regards, give us a quick overview?
All right, so we're in the process of designing the new roof for the Melissa Jones School, and the Board of Ed decided to move forward with the solar PV that's going to be put on to Melissa Jones. So it was originally incorporated into the energy project. It was pulled out of the energy project and put into this project. So by doing so, we had to incorporate the plans and specs into the roofing bid. So it was not part of CWA's original proposal, so we had to have them added into that. They added the PV, including all the specs and everything into that bid.
What is that word you're using?
PV, so photovoltaic stands for, sorry, PV. It's an abbreviation.
Industry jargon.
That's it. You'll hear a lot of that coming up in the future.
Why was it pulled out of the performance contract?
Because we weren't certain that the performance contract was moving forward at the time this was done. So
Now we do.
correct, but to pull it back out wouldn't make sense since we've already gone ahead and done most of this work and incorporated in. We've also met with the state. So the state now is under the impression that we're going to move forward with this as part of the bid and project. The good news is they'll give us some reimbursement on that solar system. So we had CWA give us a proposal. Obviously, the Standing Building Committee reviewed that proposal and has approved and recommended moving forward with the proposal from CWA in the amount of $7,812.50.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If none, call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you very much.
Cliff.
Have a great day.
Did we get the password?
I can do it without it.
You want to do it without it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Come on. That's too bad. I think one should have.
I have 2 more copies. If anybody here specifically for this topic, would you like to see a copy of what we go over?
Leave them there in case everybody wants to grab. That's fine. That's fine.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
Great. Well, thank you for your time. My name is Patty Tyree. I'm a project manager at Eversource. I oversee the outreach program for the transmission projects in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts. And this is Elizabeth Hale. She's the project manager of this specific project that we are here to talk to you about tonight. The project, as Matt mentioned, is called the Stepstone to Green Hill Upgrade Project. It is in the towns of Guilford and Madison, Connecticut. And just to give you a high-level overview of why we're doing it, it's one of Eversource's responsibilities to monitor the reliability of the transmission system, identify any areas where we need to do upgrades or any areas where maybe the structures are deteriorating from wear and tear or any other type of damage. And we have to maintain the transmission system so that, we don't lose power, we can withstand storms and whatnot. And so we evaluated the structures in this one section of the right-of-way in this area, which is between Stepstone Substation in Guilford and Green Hill Substation in Madison, and we identified about 60 structures that need to be replaced. We say due to structural integrity issues, but maybe woodpeckers have gotten to the structures, maybe just the wear and tear, many different reasons the structures could need to be replaced. So we'll be replacing those structures with new structures that are going to be made of steel. It's called weathering steel. Oh, is it up here now? You want to fiddle with it?
I'll play with that.
The structures, it's a weathering steel. It's called weathering steel because it's a brown steel, which weathers over time. When they come up, they're like a dark kind of bronzy, orangish brown, and then as they weather and withstand the elements, they become more like a wood-like appearance, which is what we like for the landscape here. Just want to go to slide 3, Liz. So as I mentioned, this is the overview of what the project is. It's about 5.5 miles, and about 3 of those miles are in the town of Guilford. And all of the structures that are going to be replaced by structures of similar height. In some cases, the structures will be increasing by up to 10 feet, and those are to make sure we are adhering to any clearances that may have changed or shifted from a reliability standpoint since last time we were in this area. And so in addition to, sorry Liz, for doing the structures while we're there, the main kind of reliability need for this project, other than making sure the structures are able to stand and withstand the power line, is to increase the communication between our substations. The system is more reliable when our substations can communicate with each other, and so we'll be installing what's called the optical ground wire on top of the transmission structures. It's a kind of like a static communication wire, and it just allows our substations to better communicate and identify any vulnerabilities that we would need to address to keep the lights on. Go to the next one. So this is kind of the overall timeline of the communication we've been doing for this project. Once we found out that we were going to definitely be doing it, we went out and we always briefed the towns first. So we briefed the towns of Guilford and Madison about the project. Prior to submitting with the Connecticut Siting Council for this project, a project that has a new communication wire or that's replacing structures where the heights are increasing, we have to go before the Connecticut Siting Council for approval. And so before we do that, we always brief the towns, and then we reached out to property owners who live near where this would be done to make sure that they're aware of the project and address any concerns that they may have in advance to the extent feasible. Then we came back to Guilford in late December when Matt took over leadership, so that we made sure that he was aware of the project, and he asked us to come back tonight and make sure the community also had another opportunity to hear about the project and express any questions or concerns, meet us, and exchange contact information. So we received Siting Council approval, pretty good timing, actually late last week, for the project, and we'll be starting the project within the next week or two in certain areas. So overall construction, if you want to go to the next slide, Liz, is they'll be similar height. In some cases, they'll be up to 10 feet taller in Guilford. I believe there's one location in Madison where it's a bit taller than that. It was actually per the request of a property owner. We did a little shift and it got taller. Is that right? So overall construction of the project, and you can stay on this slide, Liz, I'm going to skip around a little bit. It would be starting in certain areas this month, and it'll be complete by the end of the year. But restoration activities, so taking out our access roads and pads that we build to access our structures, reseeding and putting in any grass or plantings, that will continue into the spring of 2019, for the spring planting season. So even though construction will be starting now and not completing until the end of the year, it's not going to be constant in any one particular area. So if you live in a neighborhood that has the project coming through in the transmission right-of-way by your home, you may see us come through and first do some mowing, remove some vegetation that may be in the way of the structures within our right-of-way. We would then come back in and do what we call work area preparation. When we do that, we have to build access roads and stable ground work paths so that we can place the equipment safely to access the area. These are temporary in most cases, unless it's an extremely, out of the way, rural, not in your backyard area, in which cases we would like to leave those in place so that we can easily access and maintain the structures, and in which case we do that with property owner approval if it's on your property.
These are all existing right-of-ways, and we're not talking wetlands.
Oh, yeah. Well, wetlands, yes. We do.
I mean, it might be wet, but they're existing.
Existing.
Yeah.
Yep. So this right-of-way, how big is it, Liz?
The right-of-way is, I think, a little over 100 feet, but the whole thing is not cleared. There's about 80 feet or so, I think, that is cleared for the right-of-way.
So we would be clearing in the immediate area of the structures that we're working on. But it's really not heavy clearing. It was pretty well cleared. And so if there are any areas where we take down quite a few trees and there's a perceived visual impact by the property owner, we do work with folks on an individual basis to do visual mitigation, planting plans and whatnot.
Well, Charles just mentioned it, inland wetlands. I just wanted to make sure that folks understand that we're, to the extent possible, inland wetlands will not be disrupted or encroached upon. Is that correct?
Yes, so we do have some environmental impacts on the project. We design it with that in mind to have the least amount possible, and we do have to go through various state permitting agencies for the impacts that we do have.
That's what I wanted to hear.
And just to clarify, I also spoke with a lawyer from the Siting Council, and she explained that, the Eversource does not have to go through the normal wetlands process locally They must follow their best practices, and that's their sensitivity to the environment, but it's not like what we would normally see a project go through the various local steps.
Well, on that same point then, I mean, you were just talking about if you had to cut down trees, you would have discussions with the neighbors or whoever would be impacted. What's the process for that? When do you have that discussion?
So we have a dedicated field outreach team. Actually, our field outreach rep, I'll call him out, his name is Tyson Chamberlain. He's in the back here, in case anybody came tonight that he's met before. And so he'll be going door to door. He's actually already started to go door to door and meet with the neighbors who live along the area that abuts the right-of-way where we're going to be doing this.
Oh, so you started that, the neighbors?
We started that actually before we filed with the siting council, because when we file, everybody who's affected gets a letter. And we don't like you to get a letter and be confused and anxious and not know what it is. So we tried to...
When did those letters go out?
They went out prior to filing with the siting council, which was about 3 months ago.
How many property owners are there roughly, do you know?
How many property
I think there are around 70 in Guilford.
How many property owners? There's about 100, there's about 150.
But not all of those are in Guilford.
Contacted with at least a letter at this point?
Yep, so they've all gotten 2 letters now. One letter might be arriving today. One was when we filed the petition with the Connecticut Siting Council, and then one was when we received approval to announce that we'd be starting
Yeah, I don't
construction.
want to get into, have you had much reaction?
And not really. We've been meeting with folks. We've only received a couple calls to our transmission hotline with questions, but I attribute that to Tyson being out there and going door to door and meeting folks. He's met with quite a large group of property owners. We've received some questions and concerns, mostly about plantings that would come after due to visual impacts.
Just want to qualify one thing. You said 150 homes, but that's split between Madison and Guilford, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have that breakout? I think roughly it was 70
Yeah, it's
in
probably,
Guilford?
yeah, it's probably in the neighborhood of 70 or 80. I don't have the exact number, but just looking at the list.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're in the ballpark.
And at the end of the day, you're replacing existing towers with new towers.
Yes.
Essentially on the same location, unless there's some small adjustment that needs to take place, and that would be within the existing right-of-way?
Yes, within the existing right-of-way, not in the exact same location because we have to put the new structure up before we can take the old structure down.
Okay.
So they're kind of near each other, and in some cases, if there was a wetland nearby or a vernal pool, we would adjust the new location to kind of skip over those environmental sensitivities.
Or you can point out that helicopter description that...
Sure. So,
This is the cool part.
back to work area preparation. So after we get everything ready, we install the new structure, we take down the old structure, and then we string the communication wire that I mentioned. And so to do that, we use a helicopter. Helicopter, Eversource has found, is the most environmentally sensitive way to install either wire for communication or our transmission wires. It's less impact to the ground. It's a shorter time span, but oftentimes it depends kind of the neighborhood that you're in. Some people think it's really cool and exciting, and some people think it's scary, but it's quick nonetheless, and it's environmentally a better thing for us to do. So we find what we refer to as landing zones, and we'll be reaching out to the town if we haven't already to see if you have any ideas about safe locations near the right-of-way where we can land the helicopter. And we'll kind of go back and forth from there and string the wire to get it all set up. Once we do that, you'll see us leave. We'll do the restoration. The first thing we do is we come in and we pull out those temporary roads and pads, and then we come back and we reseed. If there's an instance where we're doing the vegetated plantings, we probably come back in the spring. If we miss the spring season, we'd come back in the fall. It just kind of depends on where the timing lands.
Is that landing site just like a field or something, or is it actually a official landing?
Oh, it's just like a field. Yeah, sometimes like agricultural lands or like a vacant parking lot, or, you know. In some cases,
It must be a pretty good-sized helicopter. I mean, it's not a little...
it's a normal. Yeah, it's normal, and we'll in advance, because, you know, there's obviously sensitivities with helicopters flying in residential neighborhoods. We'll be reaching out to customers every step of the way. So, like I mentioned, we sent a letter when we filed with the Siting Council. We just sent a letter a couple days ago when we received the approval, and then we're going door to door with copies of that same letter, as well as a more detailed write-up of what you'll see first in your neighborhood. And we're doing that in areas based on the 3-week look-ahead schedule that we get from our contractor. So they tell us where they're going to be, and then we go target those neighborhoods to reach out again with a touch point to remind them that we're coming. before we use the helicopter, we'll also do a broader mailing to what we call the expanded list. So people that live directly where we're going to be building, as well as about 300 to 500 feet out, that may see or hear it. And that's something we usually do a media release on as well, in case anyone sees it in the community and is questioning it that doesn't directly live there. Yep, next one. So just kind of in general, I already mentioned the schedule starting now and completing by the end of 2018, and we will not be constant in any particular area except for our substation locations. Our typical work hours, as approved by the Connecticut Siting Council, are a 10-hour period between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday. And occasionally work may be required on a Sunday. 12 hours? Oh, all 12 hours, okay. So all 12 hours between 7 and 7 in most cases.
When you speak to the outreach, in talking to the neighbors and the people that are really affected, have you also reached out to newspapers and that type of thing? Because I haven't heard, I know it's early in the phase, but, I think the general public is going to have to know about these helicopters and things.
I did reach out to Zoe Roos and connected her with Kathy Liaison, who's our community liaison. And she did an article on it, is it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was on.
Exactly your point. I wanted to get as much out as we could in advance of this project taking off, because originally we had anticipated a siting council approval on January 18th, so work would have already commenced at this point. So we actually coincided the timing of that to be covered, so people would have an advance notice of it. In addition, general public, in addition to the outreach that they've been doing.
And also, as I mentioned, work may occasionally have to occur on a Sunday. That would be in a special circumstance, such as if we had a scheduled transmission system outage, which we have in projects like this. That doesn't mean that anybody in Guilford would lose power, at least not on purpose. But what it means is that we specifically redirect the power. We work with the independent system operators and Convex and all kinds of fancy agencies that I can't really speak to more than that very high-level description I just gave you, that do all kinds of calculations, and they have the power flow from a different area so that we can safely work on the line that we're currently working on in an outage condition. And when we do that, we get a very short time frame to do the work. So let's say we're running behind because material came in late and we only have 2 days to do that work under that outage condition. That's when we would be calling up and saying, oh, Town of Guilford, this weekend we're going to have to work on Sunday. We're requesting approval from the Siting Council so that we can complete this work in that condensed time frame. If we don't complete the work in the condensed time frame, what happens is we have to request another outage, which can take months and months in some cases to get, and then the project would just be taking longer. So while we wouldn't be in your backyard the whole time, you would still have that not very attractive access road and work pad and everything kind of staged back there, because we wouldn't have been able to do everything in the time that we had scheduled to do it. So we don't want to work Sundays. In some cases, it'll work out better for us if we do, and better for the community if we do. And just in full disclosure, we do anticipate this summer having a condition like that in the Guilford and Madison area, because it is very hard to get scheduled outages in this area due to the condensed, amount of everybody needing the power and the not as many lines around here. So in advance of that happening, we'll be sure to reach out again to all the neighbors and to you and let you know. So that's kind of it. I think I already covered what's on this last slide here, that we're committed to being good neighbors in the community. We reach out early and often before we go to our regulators with the project to make sure the community is aware. We don't like to have any surprises. We like you to have our direct contact information so that if you have any questions about the project, you know who to call. I have on the bottom there our dedicated hotline and email, but I also on the next page have the direct contact information for our town liaison, Kathy Liaison, who Matt mentioned couldn't be here tonight, and then for Tyson, who's our door-to-door rep, who will be working with the public every day out there and interfacing with our construction crew. We do also, of course, have our transmission hotline, and Matt, you have my information as well, as always, a resource for you.
Thank you. Tracy, we'll make sure we get some of this up on the website, the town website, so people will know where to reach out. We'll do something. We have it electronically. We could probably put the entire presentation up or a link to it, as well as where folks can go to get more information from your team. So before I send them home, which they're willing to do, I bet, relatively quickly. Is there anybody in the audience that has questions specific to this project? Because I'm sure they'd be happy to answer. Hearing none? Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 7, discuss and take possible action to waive bidding and purchase defibrillator equipment from Physio Control due to it being a sole source vendor. How's that? That's a mouthful. Charlie, welcome and thank you for staying.
Good evening. We've been using this particular vendor since 1992. I'll pass a letter that our medical control doctor sent regarding recommending this unit for us. Dr. David Cohn, who's our medical director. We're replacing a defibrillator that is 10 years old with this newer model, and the total price is $26,755.82.
There you go. Anybody have any questions? This is a defibrillator that is in one of the units.
Someone in the ambulance.
In the ambulance, right? And it has the ability to communicate with the central station. Is that what I learned? Is that what I learned?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
What happens with the old one? The old one gets traded in for $5,000.
Is this reflects the trade-in price?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Anything further? Call a question. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I see Rick getting up. He must be next on the agenda. Oh, yes. Item 8.1, consider and take possible action to purchase a John Deere zero-turn mower from G&H Equipment. We have the backup email from Rick, but why don't you, just for the benefit of the viewing public, let us know what this is about.
Okay, well, we have approved in our budget $26,120 for a 6-foot mower, and we solicited 3 quotes. I have there in front of you. G&H Equipment, $20,597. New England Power Equipment, $22,235.79, and Midstate Tractor Equipment, $24,067.03. And so we're requesting the approval from G&H. It's the low quote, and it's well under budget. To have this board approve us going forward and purchasing that 6-foot John Deere tractor. It's a mower. Yeah.
Is that off the state contract?
It's not. That's why we got 3 quotes. 3. Yeah, no, none of them had the state contract.
So I really wasn't aware of this. So under our purchase, so if you're waiving a purchasing policy provision, which would normally require, what's your low bid?
20,000.
20. I'm sorry.
20,597. Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah, it's under 25,000.
Thanks.
And you're certain the bids are identical? You're getting precisely the same thing from
Yes.
G&H?
Yep. Yeah, with the bagger and the roller kit, everything is the same.
Same exact model, same year?
Yes.
Right there.
Interesting, it's a John Deere, right?
Correct.
Why disparity?
Surprised it's such a big price difference.
20%.
Yeah.
But, well, that's the bidder's game. Throw a number out, sometimes they take it. Right.
Yes.
Anything further?
They want to get their business in town.
Right.
Well,
Anything further? Is there a motion?
There's a comfort seat.
makes a difference, my guess, after
Been
time.
sitting there all day.
Okay, that's right, that's right. Is there a motion to approve?
I make that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
This deer comes without ticks.
Oh, we've been waiting to say that. Did you plan that all day? Item 9, appointments and resignations. 9.1, act on recommendation to move Jeffrey Parker from alternate to regular member on the Inland Wetlands Commission for a term to begin March 1, 2018 and expire February 28, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second.
All in
Making
favor?
work, man.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, none. 9.2, act on recommendation to move Fran Paranto from alternate to regular member of the Economic Development Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire November 30th, 2020.
I better make that motion.
If you don't make that motion, you're in trouble. That's right, your friend. Second?
Second.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, none of those. 9.3, act on recommendation to move Dennis Dostard from alternate to regular member of the Zoning Board of Appeals to fill a vacancy or term to expire February 28th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals. Item 9.4, I'm going to ask that we table that. Is there a motion to table it?
So moved.
Is there a second?
All in favor of tabling? Aye.
Yeah, what's going on there? She's not ready?
Not yet, we're not yet ready to make that appointment.
Okay.
Pending further confirmation from the individual as well as the recommending town committee.
Okay.
So, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of tabling? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? None. 9.5, act on recommendation to move Robert Kuzo from alternate to regular member of the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? None. 9.6, act on recommendation to appoint Janet Ainsworth to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire February 28th, 2022.
I'm on the hook for that one as
I
well.
thought you
so
might have been.
I'd like to make Janet make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? Motion carries. Congratulations and thank you for your service. 9.7, act on recommendation to appoint Brittany Merles as an alternate to the Zoning Board of Appeals to fill a vacancy for a term to expire February 28th, 2019. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, and a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, none, passes. 9.8, act on recommendation to appoint Brittany Merles as an alternate to the Guilford Lakes Golf Course Commission to fill a vacancy for a term to expire September 30th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Somewhere?
Second.
Second?
Yeah, so that's two boards?
Two boards.
Two as an alternate.
Yep.
Busy.
Thank
Two
you.
alternates.
Two alternates.
Two alternate spots. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? None? Passes. 9.9, act on recommendation to appoint Lloyd Desmond to the Housing Authority to fill a vacancy for a term to expire March 1st, 2019, and I'd like to make that recommendation. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals. Item 9.10, act on recommendation to appoint Eva Besmer to the Inland Wetlands Commission for a term to expire February 28th, 2022. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? None. Carries.
Impressive resume.
Yep. 9.11, act on recommendation to appoint Richard Wallace to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term to expire February 28th, 2022. Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Recusals? None. Motion carries. 9.12, act on recommendation to reappoint Rose Dostert to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a term to expire February 28th, 2022. Motion? You got it?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? None. Item 10, request for use of town property. Act on a request from the Soccer Club of Guilford to place a sign on the green advertising its registration. Sign placement February 10th through the 24th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second somewhere?
Second.
These are the A-frames at the top of the green, right?
Yep.
We're talking about.
Yep. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals? No. Okay, 10.2, act on a request from the Guilford Fund for Education to place a sign on the green advertising its spelling bee taking place March 2nd, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For the record, the Board of Selectmen, under the tutelage of Sue Renner, is going to be participating in that. So she better be the speller that we rely on, I think, right? So we will be participating in that, so, and looking forward to it. Just hope we don't get knocked out first.
I know. Get at least
That's the
two or three
embarrassing.
words in.
Exactly, exactly. Item 11, correspondence. Does anybody have anything under correspondence they want to
I think
bring
we
up?
all got letters. from the
We did.
Trail.
We did. Support of the trail. Good. Committee reports, none. We still haven't formalized that yet. Let's get through the budget season
Yeah.
before we
Good.
tackle that, if you will. Old business? New business?
An item of new business, which was,
Do you have
I
an
received maybe this should have been under correspondence, but I received a communication from someone who was inquiring why we did not consider two-year budgets to sort of save on efficiency in this person's perspective. So I just raised it to the board.
I think there's some statutory issues, state statutory issues with that. And, let alone our own charter doesn't allow for it. And I believe there are some state statute issues. The state allows themselves to do a biennial budget, but I don't think they've ever extended that courtesy to local municipalities.
So there's structural reasons why it's not.
Well, there are.
I mean, like we have 5-year capital plans and things like that, but the actual budget, that'd be problematic in many.
And in all candor, I mean, I'm not sure what savings there necessarily would be. I mean, we have extra meetings, but it doesn't add necessarily dramatic expense.
Look at, here we are faced February, we barely got the information.
Right.
I think what the person who you're talking to might be, looking, do we have a plan and things like that, and I think we do some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I will share that to make sure that's not the concern. I think there was a thought that there'd be some advantage to sort of laying out a 2-year spending plan, but I'll have a further discussion.
There's a lot difference between a spending plan and a budget.
Yeah, no, I understand. I got you.
I mean, a budget requires some information input.
Right.
Where a plan just says, we hope to do this.
Right.
All right, you're going to forward that along for widespread distribution? And then we'll check the statutes, but
Let's put it
pretty
this
sure.
way, if we could get out of going through this every other year.
You vote for that? Item 15, public forum, because we're going to be going into executive session on item 16. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board in executive session? I mean, public forum.
You can't.
Why?
If you want to.
I could, that's right. Hearing none. Let's move on to item 16, and that is discuss and take possible action on potential land acquisition. Is there a motion to go into executive session while inviting Pam Millman and Kevin McGee, as well as Gary McKelney, into that session?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Second. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, recusals? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming
Thank you.
out.
Mike, and we'll be coming back to...
Janet, we'll see you around.
Is there a motion to come out of, we already did that. Yeah, we already voted to come out of executive session. We already did that on the way out. Coming out of executive session, we have agreed to do the following. And I'm putting this in a form of a motion that we agree to accept the terms of a property purchase negotiated by the Land Acquisition Committee on the town's behalf, subject to council's further clarification of the details. Secondly, and would authorize in-house counsel to prepare a purchase and sale agreement conditioned on town meeting, Connecticut General Statutes 8.24 mandatory referral and other real estate conditions, and to authorize first selectman to sign the agreement on behalf of the town. That's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Refusals? None. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. All right.